Hey guys, Tom Barclay here outside the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium after, Tottenham 3, Liverpool 6. Probably the most bonkers game involving Ange Postecoglou since Thursday when they beat Man United 4-3, which just sums up his time in charge here and the goal crazy element that it has been at Spurs during his time here. But this one, obviously, it did end well for his side. And to be honest, 6-3, I would say, massively flattered his side. It felt like one of those games that you play in Power League where you sort of forget the scoreline after a while because the goals keep going in. But as I say, 6-3 it ended up. There was plenty more chances for Liverpool where they could have made it far worse. Reminded me a bit of a Galatasaray game. Obviously, the scoreline was nothing like that, but Forster made loads of good saves in that game to keep the score down, and Liverpool here really did run riot. Ange was getting quite irked by questions on TV and in the press conference about his inability, or not inability, but refusal to switch up his tactics, and no one really mentioning injuries. He's really not having that, and you have to say there's a fair point there. He's obviously missing his goalkeeper, he's missing his first choice centre-backs. Doggy was fit enough to be an unused sub, I think, in the end here, so most of his defence was decimated. And I think those are definitely fair points, but still, when you're sort of 5-1 down at home to anyone, you're going to expect criticism. So I don't think you should be surprised by that. I think my main takeaway from this, I suppose, because I've watched enough of Ange and Spurs, is you would be shocked if he did change his approach. So that's not surprising. And then conceding goals with a sort of patched up defence, and even if they're the first choice team out there, really at the back, against the side of Liverpool is not surprising either, and the fact they can score goals against Liverpool is not surprising either. So if anything, my main takeaway from this wasn't even really a Tottenham related one. It was just, wow, how good are Liverpool, they are going to win the league this season. It definitely feels that way. Now 4 points clear with the game in hand at Christmas after Chelsea dropped points, and in a season where it doesn't feel like the standards are maybe quite as high as they have in years gone by, mainly because Man City's drop off, because City are the ones that have set the bar so high. Liverpool have just basically been the most consistent team and have gradually got better and better and better. And today, going forward at least, they looked absolutely awesome. And to be honest, it was only when they started to drop off, as Arne said in his presser afterwards, where he felt like at 5-1 his players stopped running, and that's what allowed Tottenham back into the game, which he was a bit frustrated by in what was a pretty flawless performance apart from that from his side. Like I say, it just really felt like this was a game where you just felt like, wow, Liverpool really are the real deal under Arne Slot, and what a job he's done. Sliding doors moment, I suppose, if he'd taken that Tottenham job, but there's no point in really reflecting on that. But clearly he's a top level manager with some excellent players, and as Ange pointed out when he was asked about Liverpool after the game, they are in a great moment. They don't really have any major injuries. I know Konate's injured at the moment, but Gomez has slotted in well. Most of their key players are on fire. Mo Salah is unbelievable, and he's just getting the best out of them, whereas Tottenham have major problems at the back, and then the likes of Bentancur suspended as well. They've got issues. That doesn't really gloss over everything, give them an out on everything, and no matter how much Ange might prickle over questions about his refusal to switch it up, there will be legitimate questions from supporters who see a team down in 11th, who conceded so many goals. Yes, they've scored more goals than anyone else in the Premier League. I mean, that should not be forgotten. 39 goals in the Premier League now, which is more than Liverpool and Chelsea, who've got 37. And unsurprisingly, in 50 games, I saw this stat of Ange Postecoglou so far in the Premier League. I think it's 50 games. The average goals per game of 3.6 is the highest ever, apparently, which sort of underlines how, from a neutral's perspective, how entertaining it is. But fans will be frustrated that when you concede that many goals, what do you expect if you lose that heavily at home? If you've got players out injured like he does, the questions about should you adapt to have with the players at your disposal will come up, and they always will. And it might annoy him, it might piss him off, to be honest, and I understand that, but there is a reason why they keep coming up, because other managers would, and it depends on what kind of perspective you take, whether you think it's worth going all in on a strategy to try and long term have the benefits from it, or whether from here to there, when you've got problems from a personnel point of view against such a good team like Liverpool, should you change it? Maybe you should, but I'm not saying this is what I think, but I'm saying this is why he's going to have criticism after a game like this, and that's why some fans might be left frustrated. But let's just sort of. But the thing is, that's never going to change. So it almost feels like, from a journalist point of view, those questions have to be asked after the game. But I'm almost like, what is the point? All it's going to do is annoy him, which sometimes gets great quotes. But and we have to ask those questions, and difficult questions, because we are the conduit to the fans, so we have to ask those questions. But it's almost like, what is he going to say it's any different? And you could just see today he was just getting just more and more exasperated by having to answer the same question for his whole time here and pretty much throughout his whole career. But if you play that way and you stick that way no matter what, and you do it in the most watched league in the world, like the Premier League, those questions will keep happening when you have a bad result like you did today. So, I don't know, I see both sides. Anyway, looking about the game itself, Liverpool were pretty much in complete control from early on, trying not to forget all the goals this time, unlike the other day against Man United. The first one was Luis Diaz's excellent header, but the cross from Trent Alexander-Arnold was David Beckham-esque. It was absolutely beautiful. Remember the celebration afterwards, Diaz was like kissing Trent's, or shoe shining his right foot, which is probably quite apt, given that right foot is an absolute piece of gold from a football perspective. Second goal, McAllister gets another header, so after a bit of a mix-up in defence. And at that point, you just thought, there's no way Spurs, they might score some goals, but they're going to really struggle to come back from that. They did momentarily look like they had a chance when Deki Kulusevski won the ball brilliantly off McAllister with a bit of stereotypical hard graft from the Swede, and then Maddison picked it up and curled it into the corner. A lovely finish, probably the only really good contribution he had in the game, because he was hooked before an hour. He didn't have the best game apart from that goal from Maddison's point of view, but a lovely finish. And then the killer goal that came after that was at just before half time. They've just scored to make it 2-1. You think, get into just carry on there, just pause there because my microphone in this very windy, cold atmosphere here just blew off. Hopefully this one stays on to finish this, but for half time, the crucial goal to go 3-1 up. So Spurs look like they're on the attack, get a ball down the left hand side, and then suddenly Alexander launches it upfield. Ball comes up in the air, and Dragusin decides to go for a header when he should have left it. And if you're going to go for it, which he shouldn't have, you've got to go clean him out. And whatever you do, you win that ball or you take out the midfielder, which was Szoboszlai. He didn't. Szoboszlai gets a flick on, goes to Salah. Salah races through, plays back into Szoboszlai, who was brilliant all day, Szoboszlai. Lovely finish to make it 3-1. And that, you just really didn't see Spurs coming back from that point of view. In the second, particularly with the patched up team, what they did at the back. Second half, defensively, Liverpool really capitalised on the errors that Spurs had, and Salah made it 4-1 on a rebound after Archie Gray just about kept out Szoboszlai's shot. 5-1 came when a beautiful cutback from Szoboszlai. Again, he was fantastic. Salah couldn't miss to make it 173 Premier League goals for him. I think today he became the first player ever to score 10 Premier League goals and 10 assists in a sixth Premier League season, which underlines what a fantastic player he is. And that was 5-1. Then, apparently, Liverpool, according to Slot, sort of came off it a bit. Spurs came back into it. Beautiful goal from Kulusevski. A beautiful flick from Solanke over the top. Kulusevski with an excellent volley to make it 5-2. Then makes it 5-3. Solanke makes it 5-3 when he fires in a head back from Brennan Johnson. You think they couldn't, could they? I mean, maybe this Postecoglou side could, but could they against Liverpool? Could they? No, they couldn't. Because at that point, Luis Diaz, brilliant player that he is, has played through after a nice bit of play between the Liverpool forwards and blasted past Forster, who couldn't get anywhere near it. 6-3, game over. And that was about it, really, and that was about fitting. And as I say, it probably flattered Spurs, to be honest. It could have been a lot worse. And 6-3 isn't a good scoreline, I suppose. To be fair to the fans, they were chanting, I think, at 5-2 down, which is pretty rare when it comes to a home defeat. They were chanting Postecoglou's name. That was pretty impressive from the fans' point of view, the support that he's getting. So that shows you that fans are still on side on when it comes. A lot of them are when it comes to Postecoglou. Maybe a lot online aren't, but in the stadium, I get the sense generally that they are behind the manager, even with and they sort of are understanding the situation they're in and what he's trying to build here. Also, another note today: there was a protest against Daniel Levy and ENIC today. Before the ground, I was told, I didn't see this, but by a fellow reporter, about 250 to 300 supporters who gathered to protest against them about 3 o'clock, game kicked off at 4:30. Flyers and balloons were handed out. In the game itself, I think on the 24th minute, these balloons were supposed to be released to signify 24 years of ENIC ownership. I didn't really see many, to be honest. I mean, there was supposedly a bit of a crackdown on the balloons that came in. but generally I didn't think it made that much impact. Apparently there were some in the South Stand and the North Lower, but I didn't feel like it was something that dominated the game. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a lack of coverage about it, because it just didn't really notice too much of it. And to be honest, I thought, particularly with the way the game was going, there'd be a lot more sort of anti Daniel Levy chants, because that's what you're expecting. But there wasn't even much of that. There was a few of the Kulusevski chants, that we've heard since the Southampton game, which do incorporate Levy, but even they weren't many, and few and far between. And to be honest, it was more positive towards Ange, and I actually asked him afterwards about the fans' reception, because it's pretty rare that a manager is losing 5-2 at home and having fans sing his name. And he said that the fans were really good. He said hopefully some of them understand our situation. He was in a bit of a narky mood, and then he said because some don't. And I think by some he meant people rather than specifically supporters, but it's not for me to put, that's my interpretation. If he meant fans, then maybe he meant fans, I'm not sure. He just generally seemed a bit angry at people's lack of understanding of the injury situation, which is a lot of what I've got from feedback on this channel, is people talking about, and maybe I haven't mentioned enough about the injury situation. It's definitely a factor, and particularly with the way he wants to play. But I guess the end of this game, the sort of, what's the word? Before my microphone flies off again, let's wrap it up. The takeaway, I suppose, is 7 wins, 8 defeats in the league. Ange's style, thrilling that it can be. Does it work against sides like Liverpool? It definitely didn't today. Will it work long term? The more he sort of drills us into this squad, and the more he gets players through the door that he wants, that will adapt and get better and get older, maybe. But it was another game where some fans, if you're on the fence with him, or if you're against him, like some supporters seem to be, this would have added fuel to your fire, I suppose. I saw this more as Liverpool being amazing. Yes, frustrating from Tottenham's point of view, but I do think he has some validity in his argument about injuries. And just finally, he was asked back in November that if he was still 10th at Christmas, he said that he would expect people not to be happy, and sort of hinted that there might be a bit of pressure on him. He was asked about that again by my good friend Matt Barlow from the Daily Mail, and his answer was basically like, it's for others to judge. I guess when he made those comments, he didn't have this injury crisis like he does now, and he's just trying his best to navigate through this period. Whether you think he should be adapting as a result during this injury crisis is up to you. But the one thing we know is he's not going to change, and he's going to stick with it. And we'll have to see how he gets on at Forest on Boxing Day. I'll be doing a video after that game. I'm not doing the presser beforehand. Got some time with my family. Have a good Christmas, everyone, and I'll see you after the Forest game.